Alright, so yo. Word on the street is every cat wants to learn about the three most influential Greek philosophers, i.e., Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Now I know that you've probably been scouring the internet looking for information on these dudes harder than the US scoured Iraq looking for WMDs. But I got what you need, and I'm not talking about what you need like my boy Carlos down in Oak Cliff. I'm talking fully cited, fully documented research. So yo, Socrates was a classical Greek philosopher that lived from around 469 BC to 399 BC, and is credited as one of the founders of all Western philosophy. Not much is known about Socrates' life. Much of the information regarding him comes from the writings of one of his most famous students, Plato, but I'll talk about him later. What we do know from Plato's writings, however, is that Socrates wasn't the prettiest guy on earth, and probably looked more like Sloth, living in the basement from the Goonies. It's also unclear how Socrates earned a living, but he is reported as saying he devoted himself only to what he regarded as the most important thing, that being discussing philosophy. Perhaps Socrates' most important contribution to Western philosophy is his dialectical method of inquiry, known as the Socratic method, which he applied largely to the examination of key moral concepts such as the good and justice. This method was first described by Plato in the Socratic dialogue. To solve a problem, it would be broken down into a series of questions, the answers to a person would seek out and put back together as a whole. The influence of this approach is most strongly felt today in the scientific method, to which the hypothesis is the first stage. The development and practice of this method is one of Socrates' most enduring contributions, and is a key factor in earning his mantle as the father of political philosophy, ethics, and as a figurehead to all of the central themes in the Western philosophy. All in all, just call him boss. Up next be my boy Plato, who we already know was a student of Socrates. He lived sometime during 428 BC to 347 BC, and was the founder of the Academy in Athens, the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. So when he was getting up at 6 o'clock every morning, you can thank Mr. Plato for coming up with that. But Plato's most influential idea is the theory of forms, which he illustrates with the cave analogy. To Plato, the world in which we live in is similar to living in a cave and only seeing shadows of objects on the wall, while the real objects lived outside the cave and were invisible. To Plato, everything had a true form, and although we couldn't see it, we remembered seeing it. So everyone was born with all the knowledge in the world, and learning was actually just remembering. Plato's writings in the Socratic dialogues are also hugely important, and some would say that all modern Western philosophy is from Plato in some shape or another. Many even say his writings are similar to philosophical cliff notes, and that all Western philosophy is simply built off him. All in all, Plato had that swag engaged. Finally, we have Aristotle, who transformed Western thought with his revolutionary ideas of philosophy and science, although many of which today have been proven as malarkey. For example, Aristotle believed that everything in the universe was composed of 5 elements: air, water, fire, earth, and ether. He thought everything moved according to what element it was made of. For example, fire always went up and earth always went down. This theory proved remarkably accurate when making predictions such as what a rock would do when you dropped in water, but proved stunningly useless when trying to figure more complicated calculations such as predicting changes in momentum in a moving part around an event horizon of a black hole. More notably though, Aristotle pioneered the branch of philosophy known as metaphysics, which deals with the fundamental ideas of nature which have plagued mankind for eternity, such as who am I, where am I going, and dude, where's my car? Aristotle claimed that in order to work out any realistic answers to these questions, you must first accept some fundamental axioms, or self-evidencing principles requiring no proof. For example, the principle of non-contradiction, which states that the particular attribute cannot both apply and not apply to the same subject at the same time. Unfortunately, recent advances in the bizarre science of quantum physics have effectively blown Aristotle's axiom theory to pieces for reasons I haven't even the intelligence, patience, imagination, or time to go over here. Nevertheless, Aristotle thought that in order to apply the logical process to any question whatsoever, We must first accept certain axioms to be true because without any kind of original assertion, the logical process is impossible. And trying to calculate any question, such as whether or not to order extra cheese, will leave you completely isolated and void of circular reasoning until the end of time and leaving you flailing like an octopus in lava.